Hey guys, it's Angie from Suburban Survival Guide. We're going to talk about grape juice today. As you can see behind me, we have a huge grape patch. The vines are growing up just these green posts. We have a plant on this side and a plant on this side. That's only two. It's been their third year growth. Last year we got 7 quarts of grape juice. This year we had 21 quarts of grape juice by the time we were done. So in 3 years, first year was planting year, second year we got 7 quarts, third year was 21 quarts. Huge difference. Every year you'll notice that grapes just get bigger and bigger and bigger and produce more and more and more. And you don't need a huge section to do it. This plot is on a 4-foot by 8-foot raised bed. So not a huge area taking up my garden, and it's actually tucked in around our air conditioners and kind of our back step to get through the backyard and out to the front side yard. So it's a very, very tight spot, and we were able to fit all of this in there. Last year when we did our grape juice, we were a little bit quick in doing it. I was worried about weather and different things. I suggest to you to hold out. When you think the grapes might be ripe, wait at least another week, preferably 2, and then they'll be definitely riper for you. The cooler the weather seems to also add their sweetness to it. This year we did these green grapes. They're my favorite. They do a pink juice and it's beautiful. Some people like more of the purple, and they usually like to wait till the first frost. I don't like a purple grape juice. I don't like Concord at all, so we don't do that at our house. The first trick I found in doing grape juice is you take all the grapes and you throw them in a cooler, because it's something big enough to haul across the yard without having buckets and bowls full of grapes. And as you can see, I had a lot of help this year. I had my daughter filming for us. Well, my mom and we picked grapes, and it just kept coming and coming. We did them in several batches because it took so long, and we had so many, I didn't want them sitting around and causing fruit flies to come. So we did about a half a cooler at a time. The first step was to take the grape juicer, the steam juicer, out. It comes in 3 parts, technically 4 if you count the lid. You've got the bottom that you fill with water just to the rim, just before you set the pot on top. Then you set the pot on top, and that will hold the grape juice as it comes out. Then you set inside of that another section that holds the actual grapes. And they have little holes in the side, and the steam will come up as the water heats up, and it'll steam those grapes until they shrivel up into almost nothing. And as they come out, centrifugal force will force that grape juice through that long tubing that you see on the side. You can get clear tubing from the hardware store when yours dies. It should come in the kit to begin with, but over time it'll wear out. Or you can go to any hospital supply place and get surgical tubing. It all works well. As we were doing the juicing this year, we figured we got about 3 quarts for a basket or a batch of grapes, of grape juice. As it comes down the tubing, and I've been doing this for over 15 years, I still make mistakes, and we learned a kind of a neat trick this year that helps so much. It was actually my daughter's idea, and she's never done grapes before. But as you lift up the jar and you put the tubing in and you take the clamp off so the juice comes on out, when I went to lower it back down to a lower table, as the juice was coming, it filled up the jar. Well, then I didn't know what to do with the juice. And it was a different setup. We're in a house with a new stove that works better for canning, so I didn't have to do it in my back deck this year. And I lifted up the tubing, and it sent boiling grape juice all over my hand, which doesn't feel great. And I'm someone who has hands that have been frostbit before, so I don't feel as much pain as quickly, and it still felt really, really painful. The correct process to do this is to put the tubing in the jar while the jar is above the grape juice. Lower the jar then down to the table below, and then let the juice come out. So the trick we learned, thanks to my daughter, was to take that jar when it's almost full, lift it up with the tubing, set it on the counter next to it, and then pull the tubing out. Cork off the tubing, rest it on the jar behind, that's an empty jar. And then we found to juice to several jars that way, and then have an extra jar that just has extra juice in it, that's not filled to the top, that you can pour each of those jars off, top them off, so you don't have to be handling the boiling water the boiling juice at the same time. The next step with juice is to take the rim of your jar and make sure it's clean. If you have done it and you haven't spilt any grape juice, you're great. If not, take a clean washcloth that's just been dampened, run your washcloth across the rim of the jar so you don't have anything sticky on it. Put a new new. This is important. Some people who are new at canning don't realize you cannot reuse canning lids. They might seal for you, but it won't be a true seal that holds for a long, long time. Get new jar lids, put them on, screw on the top, the ring that goes around it. The trick to that is to only screw it to what screws. You know, give it the screw and tighten a tiny bit, but don't over tighten. It will, over the canning process, buckle the lid if you tighten it too much. So just a natural screw and a little extra oomph, but not much. Then when all of that was done, and we had 7 quart jars, you lift them into your boiling water canner that's really warm, but not boiling hot yet. Put the jars in, close the lid, and bring it to a rolling boil. Once it gets to a rolling boil, which is a boil that keeps going, no matter how much you stir it, it's still boiling, 10 minutes in the canner, and you're fine. People do out there is plenty of steam in a hot jar of grape juice to seal it itself, and several of mine seal before I even put them in there. But I can't rely on a jar that's been done that way and guarantee it's going to stay sealed for several years, depending on how long it's going to take me to drink that grape juice. So I never rely on that. I make sure to do a 10-minute boiling water bath. It's really quick. It's worth the extra effort. The other trick I've learned over the years is if you take that hot juice and you put it into a jar that's been cooled and sitting there sterilized but been cooled for a while, every so many jars you might crack that jar, and if it's in the process of juicing, that's going to go all over you, and it's not going to feel real great to get burnt and maybe cut. So the trick we have found is to take all those empty jars that are waiting to be filled, stick them in a sink, fill the sink with the hottest tap water you can get, and let them rest there. And as you're ready for another jar to put grape juice in, you just pull it from the sink and it's a lot better. Once your grape juice is done, it needs to sit, and the canner has gone off and timer has gone off, you pull them out with your jar lifter, and it needs to sit on the counter. I like to go overnight, so 12 hours. But just until they're completely cooled, there should be no amount of warmness. It should just be naturally what the temperature of the room air is, so that when you move those jars, you don't have to worry about the seal releasing before it's had time to set. The other trick I've learned over the years, and sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't, but if you have water that leaves deposits on your jar, just put a half a cup of white vinegar in your water in the boiling canner, and that'll help so that it doesn't leave a cloudy film on the jar. This grape juice is a concentrate, so when you're done, don't just drink it straight out like that. It's going to be too strong. With the kind of grapes we have and every other kind I've used over the years, we have found that it's about a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 jar of grape juice to 1 jar of water, and it depends on the grape juice and the years. This year my grape juice is so much sweeter than last year. This year I think it's taking me about a half a cup of sugar. We like things sweet in our house, but you might like it without any sugar, or you might need a whole cup. It depends on your personal choice. It depends on the kind of grapes you're using, and it depends on the weather and how it's sweetened them and the water. There's a lot of things that go into grapes and how, as it with any fruit or berries, and how much sugars they release on their own that year. We do love to do grape juice with spaghetti, lasagna, any kind of our Italian cooking. It really is an easy thing to do. It doesn't take long, and I'm someone who hates store-bought grape juice, and I love grape juice off my vine. I hope that helped you a little. I hope you can see from some of our tips and tricks that it's not such a scary thing, and if you have the right tools, one of those canners is like $50 online. They're not much. You can go anywhere from $50 to $200 depending on what you want. I just have the cheap one, and it works really great, and it's been around. I've had it, I think, 15 years, and I've never had a problem. One year we had so many grapes that I got from a friend that I borrowed another friend's juicer, and she had had it through her mother and her grandmother, and it still was in perfect condition. You really don't need anything fancy to do grape juice.